Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. Our mission at cityCURRENT is to power the good, and we do that through positive media, events, and philanthropy. This show features interviews with a mix of business and community leaders who discuss important efforts, trends, lessons learned, and ways to get involved so we can learn more about our community and work together to make a difference. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT radio show. I'm Andrew Bartolotta, Director of Digital Media here at cityCURRENT. And today we're talking about traveling with purpose and an East Nashville hotel that gives away a generous percentage of each night's stay to local nonprofits who are helping those experiencing homelessness here in Nashville. Here to talk about the recently opened Gallatin Hotel is Michael Lacher, President of Anchor Investments. Micah, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew. Honored to be featured today.
Now, before we talk about the Gallatin Hotel, give listeners an idea of its sister properties, the Russell and 506 Lofts, as well as why Anchor Investments is focused around philanthropy.
Yeah, so 506 Lofts is a 6-room boutique hotel in downtown Nashville on Church Street. We've been open over 5 years there, and that was actually where we started our Rooms for Rooms program. They're loft-style apartments that we rent and kitchens, and they're much bigger units than a traditional hotel room. And it's been very successful. People love it. It's right in the heart of downtown. It's a block from Broadway, right next door to the Ryman. And our second hotel we opened is the Russell in East Nashville. It's been open now 2 years. It is housed in a former church, just like the Gallatin, and it's 23 rooms. We're proud that it is currently the #1 small boutique hotel on TripAdvisor in Nashville. So we take client service very seriously and, try to serve our guests well. Our company, we believe in giving back. I actually grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. My family was underprivileged, and we were the beneficiary of a lot of different, just generous people and charities. And so I know what it's like to grow up that way. And since I've been able to, I've always tried to be generous and give back. And we have a commercial business that funds our company and my personal expenses. And so when we created the hotel business, we thought it'd be cool to use our skill sets as real estate developers to create a business whose focus was to give away the majority of the profits to be a blessing to others and, try to share what we've been given.
Absolutely. So the Gallatin Hotel opened up this May. Talk about the building, amenities, and overall vibe of the Gallatin, which includes some really bright design and, dare I say, Instagrammable areas and more.
Yes. So the church is almost 100 years old. 3 years, it'll be 100 years old. And yeah, so our brand for all of our hotels has been fun and different. And our real goal from a design standpoint is for people to walk in and have a smile on their face. My wife would not allow me to have orange tile in our bathroom. But, if you're a weekend guest, you're like, that is fun. It's different. It's cool. It might drive you crazy if you had to look at it every day in your house. But, people love it. And it's so different than any hotel they've ever stayed in. But generally, we just want people to be like, it's bright, it's fun, it's energetic, and it's totally different.
Now, in addition to the hotel, you also have Fat Bottom Brewery as well as an event space. Talk about how corporate entities can have their retreats and events there, as well as upcoming weddings, and then a little bit about that space next to where Fat Bottom Brewery will be.
Yeah, so we're super excited. So Fat Bottom is leasing the former sanctuary from us. So they'll have an event space in the old sanctuary, and then the old basement of the building will be a really cool tap room. They have a similar facility on the west side of Nashville in Sylvan Park, and I should say the Nations. But so they already have a really good business, and this will be their location for the east side of town. But they'll be doing corporate events, holiday parties, and things like that during the week. Most weekends it'll be booked up for weddings. But what we're excited about is we'll be the only hotel in town that's small enough where a normal size wedding could rent the whole hotel out, plus have their reception or rehearsal dinner there, and all your friends and family can stay in one location. And just kind of take over the property and have a great weekend. And there's obviously huge hotels where you can have your wedding, but nobody can afford to rent 300 hotel rooms, but we've only got 25 rooms there. And so a lot of people can find enough guests to rent the rooms out. And then for corporate events, the same thing. You could have all your out of town clients stay at the hotel, have your events next door. It's right there, and they'll have food and beverage on site. So it'll be something different that the market doesn't currently offer.
Now, talk about the Rooms for Rooms program and partnering with organizations like Nashville Rescue Mission, Room in the Inn, People Loving Nashville, and ShowerUp.
Yeah, so when we created the program 5 years ago, we were trying to connect the guest mind with rent a room from us, give a room to someone that doesn't have a room to stay in. So we decided to focus on the homeless community, because it could connect. Like, we wanted to connect the guests to say, if you're going to rent a hotel room anyway, why not rent one that could be, there's a lot of beautiful hotels in Nashville, and I'm a fan. I've stayed in many of them, but there's no hotel we can find in the country that does a program like this where, we're committed to give the majority of our profits away. So every night you stay with us, the average guest stay, it provides 30 showers, 16 meals. So we try to correlate it to, like, you rent this room, this is what it provides for people who don't have these, services in their life. And it's been very well received. The guests that connect with it, socially minded travelers, we're always saying, like, if it comes down to us in another hotel, we hope they pick us because we're helping others with our profits, and we're grateful to have our commercial business that can fund our business, and we can do this to give back.
What puts a smile on your face when you look at the work you're doing to bring a high quality travel experience to guests that also changes lives?
Oh gosh. Well, I'm super proud of my team and what we've created through this business. And it is truly like nothing else in town. And, I have a lot of respect and admiration for competitors and different hotels, but because we are a small company and we're not a chained hotel, we have a lot of leeway. Like, we have smile booths in all of our hotels so you can get selfies of your trip. We have different art pieces we've had made by different nonprofits around town that highlight our charitable mission. No two rooms at any of our hotel are ever the same. So if you're staying in one and your best friend's staying in another, you would walk in his room and go, whoa, that's totally different than the room I stay in. So we believe it's all about the small touches. We've got Dyson hair dryers in all of our hotel rooms. Like, we've tried to do things. We do free local snacks. Like, we've partnered with a bunch of local snack makers. We provide complimentary snacks to our guests. Like, we've just tried to go above and beyond to serve our clients and make sure they have a unique experience, which is a lot different than a chain hotel, that every room is the same artwork, same finishes. And I think guests notice that when they check in. You can feel that, like, we've really thought about all the details.
When you look at the future of Anchor Investments, where would you like to see your business grow in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, we'll always be focused on growing our commercial business, which is redeveloping underutilized shopping centers around the Southeast and Midwest. And I always call that my day job. But we would love to continue to grow the hospitality division just to be a blessing to more in our community. Sadly, there's a lot of needs in Nashville. And as we can grow that business, there are more profits to give away. And we'll continue to expand to other underserved communities. Like, we partner with a ministry called Young Lives, which supports teenage moms. We partner with another group called Maple Built that serves young men in East Nashville, mentors them, comes alongside them to teach them life skills. And so as we grow the business, we'll be able to have more partners because we'll have more dollars to give away.
What are some lessons that you've learned during the pandemic when it comes to building a hotel? I imagine this hotel is being built like during the pandemic. So I'm sure there are some moments where there's a lot of uncertainty, but what are some lessons that you would pass along to business owners that you learned during that time?
Lesson one was don't be in the hospitality business during COVID. The biggest leadership lesson I learned is, I do trust God to help take care of me, and I put a lot of my confidence there. But, B, you have to be able to look beyond your current circumstances. We knew that the hotel business would come back. And so the easy decision was just to stop construction, just not move forward. But the courageous decision was to say COVID will end at some point and people will come back to Nashville. We have a good product as a city to offer. So while I had my moments of a gut check, it was like to remember to focus on the future and focus on the greater purpose we had. Like when we get this hotel open, we might be slow for a second, but it will pick up and the market will come back, and we still offer a great product, a great value proposition. And so just to make sure I didn't get so focused on, oh my gosh, our other hotels are struggling, COVID is so tough. It's like this too will end.
Micah, thank you for believing in that greater purpose, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. I've enjoyed it. Thanks so much for being interested in what.
I'm Andrew Bartolotta, Director of Digital Media here at cityCURRENT, and we are diving into the world of storytelling, raising boys, entrepreneurialism, and creativity today with author, creative, savvy storyteller, and my friend, Tim Nicholson. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's so much fun to actually see your face again.
You've spent years telling stories to help clients and friends find creative solutions to their problems. But before we dive into your new book, what are some lessons you've learned along the way in terms of storytelling and humanizing a brand to be relatable to your audience?
You know, there are a couple of things that I've learned really even recently about my approach to storytelling. And the first of those is allow yourself to be personal. Let the story be personal. Often in my storytelling in the past, I would take somebody else's anecdote and try to apply some lesson that we might have learned from it. And a lot of people, you know, see those lessons in things, and maybe other people are using some of those same anecdotal moments to, you know, tell similar stories from, but they don't have your story. You know, they don't have your life experience. And even no matter how exciting or how boring you think your life has been, it is an original story. And so be willing to share that. I think that's really important. I think the other thing for me has been, you don't have to hit people over the head with what it is you're trying to convey. You know, most people are really smart and they understand the message, and they might have a better interpretation of the story than you because they have an interpretation that's more relevant to them than you could possibly know. You can't have their life experience. Their story's their story, your story's your story. How you fit into theirs or the thing that you're sharing with them, how they might apply that. Let them take that and do with it as they will. Now, I was listening to some music this morning, and it was Tom Petty, who's sort of an inspiration to me as a storyteller. And Tom Petty was covering a song by Carole King. But if you didn't know it was a Carole King song, you would have sworn it was a Tom Petty song, because he took her story and told it through his voice, and it became his. So people can tell other people's stories if they're great storytellers. And I think the way he did that is he got into her life experience and he let that story be hers and then became her. He played the part of her. But in my own storytelling, it is simply let yourself be who you are and let the chips fall where they may in terms of acceptance of that story.
You've recently published a book, Growing Guys, the Early Years, which is a first in your collection of 4 about being a guy, raising boys, and friendship among men. Why did you think these stories needed to be told, and what can readers learn from reading these stories?
Well, I needed to tell the stories for my own sake first. You know, they are bouncing around in me, and I've shared them with my sons, shared them with other guys, you know, and I just needed to tell this. I needed to get the stories off my chest. You know, they're all sweet stories so far. You know, it could get more interesting as the further we get into the series of 4 that we're working on. But it was important for me to do that. And also important for me to acknowledge these other, sometimes they were boys, you know, that were my friends. And sometimes it was a parent or a coach, or maybe it was grandparent, but things that you could see being modeled in other men. And I know that we live in a time where there are a lot of a lot of behaviors that men have practiced over the years that weren't acceptable then, and certainly are being called out now as they should be if they're still being practiced. But there are a lot of simpler, sweeter values that do stand the test of time about just manhood. And I think in particular, it's the idea that manhood can be gentle, and that it's not about bravado, it's not about physical strength, that it can be about caring, about time, about humor, about failure. I go public here, I guess, with this story, and when over the last 5 years or so, I've recognized that I struggle with anxiety. And some of that has to do with maybe the pressures that guys put on themselves, and some of it is more, is less in my control. We can manage the amount of pressure we put on ourselves, but there are some forces that live, in us genetically that we have to get help with, and that sometimes, telling these stories is a way to help yourself, for me. So I particularly like going back and reminiscing about people that were supportive of me when they didn't know it. People that taught me lessons that I didn't really recognize at the time they were teaching, things that I hope that I'll be able to pass along to others, things that I hope that guys will feel comfortable passing along to their guy friends. Really trying to find a way for guys to go ahead and have the kind of conversations that, many of us wish that we've been having for years.
You're sitting in your new storefront in Austin, Texas. It's called Brother Friend. It's really an experience for men to find handcrafted goods and artisan wearables. What inspired you to launch this, and talk about the collaboration with your family on this project?
Yeah, it's quite a thing. I feel really blessed to have their support. When we worked together back in the agency life, even before then, I'd had this dream that I'd shared with my wife. It said, hey, when I retire, I want a little shop that sells jeans, t-shirts, makes a really good cup of coffee, and just play records and read books. And if people come in and they want to listen to the records or drink some coffee or, buy a pair of jeans, great. But if they don't, I'm retired, and, I'm just going to be living my life. So we during the pandemic, we decided that we would sell our house in Austin. Austin's market, I understand Memphis is having a little hot spell too. Austin's market has been hot for 10 years, but it's especially red hot right now. And we decided we would take advantage of that moment and sell our house, knowing that we really weren't going to find the next place yet. For the same reasons we were selling at top of market for sellers meant we would be buying at top of market for sellers, and we made that mistake once in life. Plus, we're going to do that again. So we decided that we were going to find a place just to rent and kind of cool out for a little while. We were blessed to have downsized a few times and understand how to make that work. And my wife found this live workspace in Austin. And she said, hey, that little thing you want to do when you retire, that you have this store and you live above it, you want to test drive it? Well, yeah, I'd love to test drive it. Where? And so she showed me the spot that I'm sitting in now. And we live in the about 1,000 square feet above it. We work in the 1,000 square feet that I'm sitting in now. It's me and Susie and our dog Sunny, Lone Star, on Instagram. And my son who lives here in Austin, who actually, we made our first trip to Austin together 9 years ago today, when we made that first trip together. And we're just reminiscing about that some this morning. He's a musician here, but he's wanted to do something together with us, and he's been very instrumental in helping get this thing put together in the time frame that we have. So it's predominantly a men's shop built around some men's experiences, just the day in the life of a man, just grooming, hopefully find a little time to read, hopefully find a little time to maybe listen to some good music, putting on your favorite pair of jeans, or wearing a comfortable pair of boots, and just hanging out. And so our next step with this thing is to create those moments intentionally and open them up by invitation to people to come in and have those kinds of experiences. And we do expect there will be transactions. That's how business works. But we're building the business around the relationship between people, what we can learn from them. So we've kind of designed the opening more like it's a bit of a pop-up kind of a model. There's a reduced inventory level because we don't want to make the assumption that our market research and our own intuition and taste are the prevailing ones, that we're going to learn from this place where we are, that there are going to be some things different that they would enjoy, that people would enjoy, and we'll bring that into our space.
Tell listeners where they can learn more about you, Brother Friend, or any other projects that you're working on.
Well, I'm excited about the little book for the things that I think it can mean between father-son moments. The stories are written to be about a minute and a half long when you're just reading them. I facetiously talk about the places and times that men might find it convenient to read that book, but I really wanted men to be able to share that book with their sons. And then to open up a conversation with them about what's it mean to be a guy, it reminds me of a story of when I was a young man, or it reminds me of a story when you were a young man, is talking to his older sons. That I have no idea where that book will lead us, except I hope that will lead a lot of men to have different kinds of conversations than they might have planned on having with their sons, and that ultimately some of the stories will teach us about different kinds of conversations that men ought to be having in our relationships with women. I'm a huge fan of women in business. I think you may know that from our life together and some of the clientele that we serve. But I can be a fan of Humphrey Bogart, and I can be a fan of Emily Wolfe at the same time. Both a bit rebellious, and both pioneers in what they do, and both able to emote in a certain way that compels others to want to tune into what it is they're doing and saying and being. And us guys need to embrace that, too. So to learn more about that book, it's on blurb.com, because I did self-publish it. I was notified by them that it was in the top 5 children's books, which was such a delight, because there's even though it's written before those father-son moments, it's not necessarily styled like a children's book, though it could be if there's an illustrator out there somewhere who would like to talk to me about illustrating those stories. But I think that's fun. Brother Friend Life will be getting a bit of a makeover on social media as we're about to open the store up, and I hope that you'll be able to see some of those moments there, like we're talking about. And brotherfriend.com is the storefront. So I'm also all over the social, as Andrew would tell you, on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn as Tim C. Nicholson. And if I could just add, maybe something getting back to sort of the very beginning of this, I think where we talked about being personal and the stories being personal. I've been taking a little bit of a different approach to the LinkedIn world to where the stories I tell, my posts are short stories. And they are much more personal than they used to be. That doesn't mean, guys, that there are tears shed, in these stories. I think when guys hear the word personal, it means, well, am I supposed to cry? No, it means we're supposed to be real.
Right.
And that real is okay. Real is really the very best. And the response that I get to real versus, trying to preach some lesson is it's quite satisfying. And even whether it shows up as likes or not on a post, I'm not necessarily interested in. It's those messages that people drop to me, DMing me messages about that they're afraid to leave in public, interestingly enough, which is telling me something about, what's beginning to resonate. And maybe us, maybe some of men of my generation and some other men, maybe one of the things that the last few years coming through the pandemic and being more sensitized to social injustice and some of the things that are going on in the way we care about the world that we're in, maybe just being more aware of that has made us, has sensitized us to this idea that we should be participating in conversations like this, even if we're not yet comfortable doing it in public. Find a place you can have it. And so often guys are jumping into my DMs asking about the things that are in those stories and telling me their own stories, and that's very satisfying, much more satisfying than I'll take 5 of those over 50 likes, because it's personal.
Real is the best way we can show up in our lives and through other people. So, Tim, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you for watching the City Current Show, which is produced by City Current with funding provided by Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance, a Higginbotham company. To learn more about each of the guests, to share your stories of others, leading by example, or to watch past episodes and more media focused on good news, visit our website at citycurrent.com or follow along on social media using the handle or hashtag CityCurrent. We look forward to seeing you again soon, and thank you for all you do to power the good.